Good morning, everybody. I hope you all enjoyed dinner yesterday. It was a beautiful venue, so thank you very much, Hungary, for allowing us to use such a beautiful building. Today we have, yesterday was very interesting, so we have a high bar to meet today, and in this panel we're going to talk about something that is quite important, which is societal expectations. So we here, regulators, industry, all the different stakeholders that are involved in the aviation system do have a way to see what is coming, but we should never forget that at the end of the day, the passenger is the one that will use our services. So if we are not able to bring society with us and explain well what we are doing, why we are doing it, and what is the role of aviation in the whole global landscape, I think we will not be having an aviation tomorrow. So today we are looking at technology, but as well at the social, more softer aspect of society and how society is seeing all these changes that are coming. So, the expectations in our sector are really, really high. I mean, for some reason, aviation is very visible, and we don't have very good press. So a lot of people talk very badly about aviation, seem to forget all the benefits of aviation, and this is something that we collectively need to change. It is true that sustainability is part of our lives. We have to make sure that we protect this world. We can see how changes in weather patterns are affecting all of us. And just yesterday, we saw what happened in Spain with lots of casualties. So this is something that we have to take very seriously because it is happening today. And we all have a responsibility to do something about it. So how the aviation industry is responding to these evolving societal demands, we will be looking at how do we use innovation to address these demands, to become more efficient, but as well more convenient. And I heard yesterday one word many times, which was collaboration. So we all have to work together in making this happen. The environment is so complex that, we cannot do this alone. In sustainability, this is pushing innovation, so we need to come up with new ways of doing things because aviation until now has been evolution. I don't know how many, most of you will be aviation professionals, and when you were at uni, it was all about evolution. You just take an aircraft, change a little thing, boom, you have a new type. It's not like that anymore. We are talking about new ways of propulsion, new ways of operation, new ways of even having urban air mobility, which we will see later what people think about. So this is new for all of us, and we need to be more expansive than ever, together with how we work then with AI or big data or all these new things and all the new threats, as we were discussing yesterday, coming from cyber and any other. So, good luck to us. This is very complex, but again, together I think we will be able to sort it out. And finally, the passenger convenience is something that is important as well, but we will not be digging very deep into that one. We're going to focus more on safety, sustainability, innovation, and how we all collectively can sort out this very complicated problem. But the good news are that we have an amazing panel here today that is going to help us go through all these points and hopefully get some good insights into what is happening. We have here Joachim Lücking, which is the head of Unit Aviation Safety at the European Commission. Joachim plays a key role in shaping aviation safety regulations and standards at the European level, ensuring that innovation and safety go hand in hand. I'm going to go, in this order so you don't get confused. We have Nathalie Lacam here, which is an ATM ANS expert in EASA, seconded by EUROCONTROL. And Nathalie has been leading a very, very interesting study on urban air mobility in Europe to talk about societal acceptance. So we are looking forward to hearing what happened on that study. Then we have Marouan, which I couldn't find this morning, so I was a bit worried that you got lost yesterday in that beautiful place. I did get lost getting out of there, so eventually made it to the hotel, so glad to see you. Marouan is the head of ATM Transformation Unit at EUROCONTROL, and previously was in Airbus as well, so deep expertise in air traffic management and aircrafts and everything else, and is responsible for advancing innovative solutions intelligence to enhance the safety and efficiency of Europe's skies, which is not an easy one because it's a very crowded environment, responding directly to the societal expectations for seamless, safe, and efficient air travel. And then we have Sebastien Dubois from Clean Aviation, Head of Program Development and Communications, which is at the forefront of research and innovation to meet the EU Green Deal targets. So Sebastien will be talking to us about what are we doing in terms of innovation to meet these societal expectations. And last but not least, we have Ana Vieira da Mata is the chairwoman of the board of ANAC, the Portuguese Civil Aviation Authority, and is a member of the EASA management board. So Ana brings her regulatory expertise to the table, helping to shape the future of aviation in Portugal and beyond by navigating the complex relationship between public expectations and regulatory demands. So this is the lovely panel we have today, and I really hope we will get, as I said, many insights, but I would like to hear from all of you, so there will be some questions that we will be placing in Slido, because we want to know all the angles, not just the panelists or my angle, but all of you, and hopefully we can get a much more rich conversation. So before we discuss how industry is stepping up to meet these societal expectations, I want to analyze together with you a question, which is, what does society expect of us? This may look like a very simple question, but actually it's quite complex, because depending who you ask, if you ask tourists that really want to travel cheap and reach all the places, you will have an answer. If you ask an environmentalist, you will have a very different answer. If you ask any of us, industry or regulators, you will have another answer. So I guess the question here is to have a balanced answer. But as well, I think, as I said at the beginning, we all have a responsibility to inform more what aviation does. So we have to basically make sure that people, and this is the general public, not us, because we know this, understand what is the role of aviation globally. Aviation contributes directly to 15 out of 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations to make this better world a better world for 2030. And this is end hunger, end poverty, gender equality, and so on and so forth. People do not know this. People don't remember that in COVID, it was aviation the one that was bringing the vaccines from one place to the other. They may not realize that emergency services, places that cannot be reached, this is all done through aviation. Looking at Nina from Norway, the geography of Norway means that they need aviation. So we need to pass this message, together with the fact that we are doing a lot in aviation to be sustainable. We have committed to the long Sustainable Aviation Goal, the LTAC, with ICAO globally to decarbonize aviation by 2050, and we are going to do it. It's challenging, but we'll get there. So I think you all have to help me pass this message. And now we did put a question, which I see we are already having a kind of big, I'm not surprised about the answer. So the question was, what do you think societal expectations are? And I can see that sustainable and sustainability are the biggest. Safety, as Florian was saying, and Yannick yesterday, safety shouldn't be taken for granted, but see, sustainability is even higher than safety. Maybe because safety by passengers and society is taken for granted, because we don't have almost accidents. So that's why now people are more concerned about we have to be sustainable. Pricing, accountability, convenience, affordability, yeah. So I think it's quite clear. So sustainability is what we have to focus, how we get there, but how we get there safely. So we'll be asking more questions later. We're going to start then with the panel questions, and hopefully I can stop talking a little bit. So we are going to start with the public expectations and innovation. The first question is for Ana, as chairwoman of ANAC. In your country, how do you see these issues brought to your attention in terms of societal expectations, and how do you navigate the complex relationships between public expectations and regulatory demands? Can you share a bit your experience as a Director General of Civil Aviation?
Yes, I can. Good morning, everybody. First of all, it's a real pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting me to discuss such important issues. And I am deeply honored to have the company of such distinguished guests and colleagues here in the panel. So, to go straight to the point to your question, as a chairwoman of the board, well, as a 25-year professional on aviation, my experience tells me that when we are looking at public expectations, we need to think about adaptation and communication. You know, if you think, you mentioned earlier about COVID. If we reflect upon what happened a few years ago on COVID, social expectations and the public expectations changed dramatically. You know, so we had to reprioritize our actions in order to deliver a safe environment. We had to start talking in a more in-depth way with health authorities. So we adapt, and we were resilient, and the public trusted because we had a clear communication. So I think that, as you mentioned in your opening remarks, that is probably the most important key or the most important takeaway, to have a clear communication, accountability, and to really engage with the public. You ask me, where do all of these inputs come from? They come from various places. They come from social media, they come from passenger organizations, they come from the stakeholders themselves. And you really get the sense of, how you were saying before in the slide, you really get the sense of what is happening and what the public is expecting. For instance, you asked me to give you some examples in Portugal. One of the main concerns in Portugal regarding aviation is, of course, sustainability. It's noise. Why noise? Because it's also the passenger experience and the quality of service. Why? Because we are working with heavily constrained airports, so passengers really feel when they travel, the passenger experience is not what they think it should be. And they are really engaging and really vocal on it. Also noise, because once again, we have heavily constrained airports, and we have Lisbon Airport is in the middle of the city, and we are working with the municipalities, with the government, and with NGOs in order to explain exactly how to change and what are the mitigation measures that we can apply, if any. So we really need, Maria, to engage clearly and accurately with the communication process. And we change our communication strategy in Portugal. To give you some examples regarding noise, in 2019, the board of ANAC went to South Portugal, to Faro, because there were some heavy concerns about noise in that region. And the board went there and talked to the municipalities and talked to the citizens who were making claims and were explaining how, in technical terms, things were happening, in order for the public to really understand what was happening and to really understand that the regulator was there, understood, acknowledged the concern, and was ready to engage. So that is really important. You mentioned on your opening remarks advanced air mobility. When the first regulations regarding drones were published, we changed also our communication and the way to address stakeholders. And we formed a team that was, on a roadshow, explaining to all municipalities what was drone, what was advanced air mobility, how could you operate drones, where were the geographical zones. We made an app. So people, the public, really understood this dimension, technical dimension of aviation. And as you rightly put it, we have a communication issue. We need to be more clear. We need to make the public really understand that we deliver for UN goals. I'm sure that changing the way that we acknowledge public expectations, be more clear, be accountable, and trying to uncomplicate our language, you know? I think that when we talk aviation, we talk amongst ourselves. When we are trying to understand the public expectations, we need to talk in the way that they can relate and they can understand, decomplicate, and to be clear and accurate. So I think that that's the way to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. And very much agree with that. I mean, if we were asked where to ask to the general public, in percentage-wise, how much aviation contributes to the total carbon footprint, I think they will go to I know, I have asked this question, 40, 50, 60, yeah. And it's 4% globally. So again, this is another fact that we have to put out there. And as you say, very simple. Yeah, we tend to talk. I mean, if you listen to Guillaume again and AI is like, what? So we need to be very straightforward and talk to the youth as well. I mean, my son will not see PowerPoints. He will just look at TikTok or Instagram. So we need to use these channels of communication that are more reachable for everybody. Or my mother, she is in Facebook, so let's put it there. Anyway, thank you very much. That was very insightful. So we're going to zoom out a little bit now and go to the European level and ask Joachim kind of a similar question. As a supranational regulator, you need to keep an eye on societal expectations in all member states. How do you do that, and how do you know what the social expectations of European stakeholders are? Are they diverse? Do you see a common denominator?
Right. Well, thank you, Maria, and good morning to all. It's indeed a pleasure to be here again at this EASA safety conference. In terms of how to engage with stakeholders in order to find out what the societal expectations are, I mean, obviously our strategy starts with trying to engage with as many stakeholders as possible. And for some, that's very easy. I mean, if we want to talk to industry, I mean, you're all here, and not only that, but industrial stakeholders, be it airlines, aeronautical companies, ATM providers, etc. I mean, they are extremely well organized at the European level. They're very skilled at making their points of view known, and they also obviously always have an open door in DG Move if they want to come and talk about their expectations. That is, from my perspective, also true for the labor side, where we do have quite a close engagement with associations such as European Cockpit Association or ETF, who also use their European and Brussels connections in order to ensure that the point of view of the employees is clearly known. Now, when it comes to society at large and customers, it's of course much more difficult for us. I mean, there are some pan-European consumer associations, notably BEUC, who are trying to communicate customers' experiences and point of view, but very often focusing more on what's not going wrong, what's not going right, and passenger rights are a clear example here, where these associations do engage in lobbying to ensure that compensations in case the service was not delivered as well as it should be are being paid for consumers, and that when reviewing such legislation, the European Commission does not only listen to airlines who have an interest in minimizing these compensation payments, but also takes into the point of view the experience of the final consumer. Nevertheless, I must say, overall, I think the expectations of society are not terribly diverse between member states. I mean, we've seen this slide here, and I'm pretty sure if we did this now in a room with people only from a member state, say Bulgaria, or you go to Lithuania or somewhere else, very similar topics would come up. Obviously, there can be local points of view which are extremely important, such as noise. I mean, you will be more concerned with noise if you live close to an airport or if you live in a very densely populated member state than in other places. But the overall expectations to me seem to be pretty similar. I mean, European citizens want reliable air services for their private and business travel. They want connectivity. In the wide sense of the word. They want the services to be safe and secure, and that's of course where EASA plays a key role. there is an expectation that air travel remains accessible and affordable to all. And we have these increasing expectations on sustainability, which already is a tension with this point of air travel being accessible and affordable to all. And somebody put here cheap as one of the societal objectives. But obviously, I mean, making flying cheap and being environmentally sustainable is not always possible for as long as we don't have the technologies to actually fly carbon neutral. And so we try to cover all these different dimensions in our aviation policy, where we have a focus on safety, in particular, obviously through the work of EASA. We have a focus on sustainability through the Green Deal. There will be increasing focus on competitiveness at the same moment, and that is why the Green Deal under the new von der Leyen Commission will evolve into an industrial clean deal. And obviously we also have an eye on passenger experience issues. I mentioned passenger rights as well as on social issues. So keeping all this together is a difficult task, and that's why events like today are extremely important, because they do, of course, offer an opportunity to discuss this with the industrial side of the industry, and therefore I'm looking forward to the continued debate today.
Thank you very much, Joachim. Very interesting. And yeah, I mean, it's probably not a surprise that more or less the themes are shared across the whole European Union, but with local circumstances depending on your particular landscape, geography, population, and so on. So we trying to understand what will be the decision-making factors on society in terms of choosing if to fly or not to fly. We wanted to know as well what society thought about these new ways to navigate the environment, like urban air mobility. And for that, Natalie was conducting a very interesting study on UAM and what societal expectations were, and what was what were the general thoughts. So now I'm going to bring Natalie. Basically, based on EASA survey, what are the key societal concerns around UAM? How should the industry address these concerns to ensure successful integration of these technologies? Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you, Maria, and good morning to everybody.
The mic doesn't work.
Good morning.
Can you hear Natalie?
Is it better?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So indeed, this study was a very concrete example of the EU regulator going directly to the public, to the EU citizens, to check, to verify their feelings about this innovative mode of transport, being the drones and the urban air mobility through air taxis. That was, at the time, in 2020, quite a disruptive idea, to be flying in an eVTOL without a pilot on board or having drones delivery. So the agency, through the drones team, decided to launch this study with three objectives. The first one was to complement the regulations that had been adopted in 2019, which set a kind of generic framework for drones. Then to help the industry, to provide the framework to the industry to continue to pursue the development and the deployment of these new products and operations, and also to help build public acceptance and public trust into this new domain. So the study was launched in 2021 and involved 4,000 citizens, EU citizens, selected in 6 major cities, European cities, so namely Paris, Hamburg, the Øresund region between Denmark and Sweden, Barcelona, Milano, and Budapest, because it was selected on the basis of on a number of criteria as a city where UAM could develop favorably. So the results were very surprising, and actually completely in line with what we saw during the poll just a few minutes ago. I will share with you the main results if we can have the slide. Thank you. I will not go into all the details, but focus on the main, on the key results. The first surprise that we had, because it was quite unexpected, was that EU citizens are quite happy with this innovation. They look forward to it. 80% of them were looking forward to the development and were ready to try it. And we noticed no geographical or cultural difference between all the cities. The second surprise was related to the concerns that citizens expressed. You can see here that they ranked first safety, then environmental concerns, and then security. So how to read this ranking? First, we do not see privacy. And it was surprising because before launching the study, we did a literature review. And I would say around 30 to 40% of the articles of the publications related to the risk of privacy breach. But finally, it did not come out in the top concerns. At least EU citizens living in big cities are not concerned by privacy issues. Safety comes first, and that looks normal, but it did not stand out as a key or main concern. Because if you take environmental concerns plus the noise that ranked number 4, then everything that is related to the environment of EU citizens really comes on top of the concerns. So this was a lessons learned also for EASA, for us, that environmental concerns are really high and really important for EU citizens. And then we had the issue of security, where, of course, the absence of pilots on board is really worrying for people who fear both physical and cyber attacks threats on board of this new aircraft. So what does it mean? What did it mean for EASA? We continue the work on setting specifications for the specific and certified category of drones, for the vertiports, for the noise, to create this framework. And one of the lessons learned also from this study is that citizens expect that new stakeholders are involved and consulted, like the local municipalities, the local actors. So it's very important to involve these new stakeholders, these new players into the usual processes. And that's why also EASA created an EAM hub, so Innovative Air Mobility Hub, as a platform to exchange, share experience, share data and information. The detailed results of the study are on the EASA website, as well as the links to this IAM hub. And I invite those of you who would be interested to go and have a look. For the industry, the lessons that the conclusions that we could draw for industry is that safety, innovation is welcome, provided that safety is preserved. Environment is very important, environmental concerns, and also the involvement of all stakeholders in this industry.
Thank you very much. Do you have another slide? Or?
Yes.
Yes. You want to?
Yeah, that was to reply to some questions that we had at the time. If you could pass the next slide, thank you. How to measure societal acceptance of something that is not existing yet, and that's not easy. And I will take the example of what we did with the noise issue, because that was an important factor for concerns for the citizens. We selected 20 citizens and locked them in a 3D sound lab for a full day, where they were subject to a lot of noise simulations. And what came out is that the noise of the eVTOLs or the drones are acceptable as long as they mix with the other city noises, so not more than 60 or 65 decibels. Mm-hmm. provided that there are other city noises like motorbikes, buses, cars, etc. And also what came out is that when a sound, a noise is new, it is more annoying than usual sounds. So that's why even with lower sound level, people felt annoyed because it was a new noise. So, of course, more work is needed on this topic, and EASA has been conducting more work on that. But that was an interesting aspect, simulations.
Thank you very much. And very interesting indeed. I guess there is an easy fix for new noises are more annoying. Once they happen very often, they will stop being annoying. So we just have to put these technologies into the market. But very interesting, and very interesting as well and positive in the sense that privacy didn't come on top. I remember at the very beginning of when drones and new things flying were coming into the system, people were very, very worried about, oh, they're going to see me on my balcony or they're going to invade my privacy. And now this is not, people are more focused on things that matter more, I think. I mean, not that privacy is not important, but sustainability, safety, that is, to me, very important. So thank you very much, Natalie, very interesting. Right, so we're going to swap now to Sebastien. Because at CAIU you are entrusted to manage research funds to make progress on a number of open technological questions. Can you please provide us with an overview of your work and how do you get from research to the regulatory necessities, particularly in terms of safety? And do you have the right tools or mechanisms to determine when a technology is mature enough for certification? And a third question, does this also involve new regulatory approaches that are enabling and yet safe?
Thank you very much, Maria, for the question, and good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you for this invite. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to present what clean aviation is about to that whole community. How important is the development of new technologies, especially in the context when we look at what is really at stake for the citizens. It's safety. Safety is really at the heart of our work, because no one is willing to fly on a future aircraft which is not as safe as tomorrow. It's about affordability. And the reason of the boom of the traffic today is because, in fact, flight tickets significantly decreased. And this is why, in fact, everyone got access to aircraft, with as a side effect, in fact, sustainability is not preserved. It's about, in fact, sustainability at stake, how to make sure that we can travel tomorrow in a sustainable manner. I like one of the statements of Guillaume Faury, who one day, in fact, said in an interview, the sole problem, in fact, of aviation is the CO2 in the atmosphere. Apart from that, all the rest, it's probably what is the best in terms of connection, infrastructure, point to point. So this is exactly what we need to tackle. So clean aviation is about developing that new technologies. But technology is only one part of the solution, because, in fact, if we want to achieve carbon neutral aviation by 2050, we need, first of all, to work on technology, for sure, because this is where, in fact, the benefits will come, and affordability as well. I will come later on this point. And we need to combine this, in fact, with improved operations. Marouan will say a few words afterwards, how to make sure that we can better operate in the sky and to make sure that we have more efficient routes. And the last but not the least, the most important, is to get access to sustainable aviation fuel. RefuelEU has made a push on this matter in order to force introduction of a blending of SAF into the new aircraft. But when you look at the path, it will not be sufficient to become carbon neutral. It's 6% in 2030, it will be 70% in 2050. So we need technologies. We need technologies to compensate as well and to counterbalance this. And probably something which is hardly mentioned is that sustainable aviation fuel will be more expensive, which means, in fact, it will have a side effect on the ticket of flights, and as a consequence, may impact the traffic. That's why new technologies can counterbalance that point in order to make it neutral. Clean aviation is exactly this. First of all, clean aviation was set up in order to support the aviation sector to transition to carbon neutrality and to accompany the Green Deal objectives. Our objective is to develop new technologies, as I mentioned before, is one of the very important points. New technologies that will have the potential to reduce by no less than 30% greenhouse gas emission by 2035. It's already a very huge challenge when you look at the path of evolutions. And probably more importantly, to make that technology onto new products. Because talking about research innovation is certainly nice for researchers, for academia, for industry members, but it will only pay off if we are capable to introduce the new technologies onto the market. And this is exactly what clean aviation is about, to force, to push, and to down-select the right technologies that have potential for introduction onto the market. But introduction onto the market means being capable as well to certify that new technologies. Here comes the challenge. And that's why, in fact, your European Commission has, in the regulation of clean aviation, included EASA as one of the members at the different body in order to work end-to-end with clean aviation and with the different parties. What we learned along the last 3 years, because we signed an agreement with EASA in 2022 in order to foster our collaboration and to make sure that we are capable to accompany that journey. What we learned along the last 3 years is that finally research and innovation is not closely connected to certification. Because people consider that you need to design technologies, and the day when they are ready, you go and knock on the door, come and see the regulator, and tell him, I need to certify, tell me how to do. But it doesn't work like this. First of all, in fact, there is a certain lead time, so we need, as part of clean aviation, to make sure that we'll be on the rendezvous to have that technologies ready for introduction onto the market. So which means we need to work end-to-end with the regulator. We need, in fact, to expose the regulator to the new technologies in order to ensure that the learning curve is accelerated and everyone has the right understanding. Secondly, we need to make sure that all researchers, innovators have the right understanding about what certification means in terms of gaps, in terms of CONOPS, in terms of means of compliance, in order to get this prepared from the start. We need to know, we need as well to define altogether what are the future standards. We are talking a lot about electrification, we are talking a lot about hydrogen, but so far we don't have such standards, and so we need to work on that. We need to identify what are the necessary elements. We need to provide data, and this is what clean aviation is doing, sharing data, information. And probably the last but not the least is something that we put into motion recently. We define a new methodology, which is called the CRL, Certification Readiness Level. This is something embryonic, but I can tell you this is something that at least force people to think about this from the start. Which means, in fact, from a CRL standpoint, this is something equivalent to TRL. So TRL people are more familiar. TRL stands for Technology Readiness Level. And this is a way, in fact, to link the dots and to align all people together. And as a precondition, if you want to be ready to launch a new product, and since clean aviation aims at launching, introducing new technologies in 2035, you need to be at TRL 6 in 2028. What does it mean? You need to define the CONOPS, you need to define all the standards, you need to define all the regulatory aspects and all that stuff, which define the path. And now we have introduced this approach onto all our projects. So far we are 28 projects running. EASA is an integral part of 21 of them. We are now monitoring, deploying, implementing, and exposing people. So there are a lot of learnings and training which have been made. And our ambition is to introduce that in a wider manner for the second part of clean aviation. And to keep regularly monitoring, to escalate to the board, and to expose everyone about where we stand, how we're credible, and we will be on the rendezvous in order to meet the societal expectations.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Sebastien. And I mean, I think we mentioned it before, but you brought it again, the collaboration between the regulators and industry and research and innovation organizations. Because if we don't cooperate from the beginning, because we need to learn as well as regulators what is coming and how we are going to be able to certify those new technologies and new vehicles, then it's never going to happen. So, I mean, I think in Europe we have a pretty robust way of doing things led by the Commission, and as you say, this CRL or certification readiness level will help us massively to understand what is coming, how we can accommodate through new regulations or modifying the current regulations, or sometimes inside the regulations we have, but just you know, looking at how to demonstrate a level of safety that is the highest, well, at the same level as of other things that we are certifying right now, or higher, as we were saying yesterday. So that's very interesting, and it brings us very nicely into the next kind of big topic, which is digitalization and sustainability. Jesper said it yesterday that digitalization in aviation is special because it touches every aspect of the industry. It helps us to improve efficiency, safety, sustainability, and passenger satisfaction massively using things like AI and other big data. But it's not an end on itself. It's a wider context, and we have to treat it as such. And then in sustainability, I think we said a lot, but to summarize and in a nutshell, when we look at how do we decarbonize aviation, we have SAF, which, depending on which stats you get, it will be around 40 to 50% of decarbonization. New technologies, that will be around 30%. Operational efficiency, that could be between 10, 15%, again, depending who you ask. And then the rest offsetting. So we know more or less how to get there. We know that we will keep investing in new technologies and seeing how we can do that. But still, it's a big challenge. It's not something that today we can say, yeah, we're going to make it. Especially because on SAF, we compete with other industries as well. It's not just us trying to use SAF. And it's global. So if we don't get all the actors around the world working on this, then we will have SAF in Europe, but not in Africa or another place in the world. And that's not going to work, obviously. So this brings me to Marouan for the next question, which is basically with increasing complexity of global air traffic and societal demands for minimal delays, how is EUROCONTROL utilizing or planning to utilize digital tools and automation to ensure that the system remains both safe and efficient? And how do you reconcile this with the human element?
Thank you. Thank you, Maria. Also, thank you, EASA, for inviting EUROCONTROL to this conference, and to our Hungarian colleagues for the amazing hospitality. I had a great evening yesterday. We discussed a lot about airplanes. We discussed a lot about, fighter jets and all sexy stuff. But we rarely talk about air traffic management. And if you think about it, air traffic management is like the power supply. We assume it's there, and we start to panic when there is no power supply. So I can tell you today the lamp is blinking. And the system of air traffic management in Europe is really stretched to the maximum. Florian mentioned the summer. Every summer for us is a pain. And it's not getting better. And maybe to simplify air traffic management, you can think about it as a kind of a chessboard, where you have a number of squares, and every square represents a capacity, a resource that is there. And the amount of flow that you can get in the system is the combination of the capacity that is available, the human, the procedures, the systems that are there to manage a certain amount of airplanes at a given time. And when the demand for traffic exceeds that capacity, well, basically, airplanes are grounded, and people care about delays because then they're either on the tarmac waiting for a slot to depart again, or they're waiting at the airport. Today, in 2024, we operate in pretty much similar traffic figures at 2019, and we operate in 80% of the airspace. So the system is so stretched, every small disruption creates a ricochet effect on everything. We had 50% more delays this year than last year. And we are running out of tricks. We try to optimize all the pieces here and there, to tell people, we had a summer policy to stick to your flight plan and all of that. And okay, you can get only, as far as what you can do with the existing system. So this is about capacity, and I don't even talk about safety, because this is also something that we have to look at and see, okay, we assume that this is safe, but okay, we have also to look at the safety element attached to this growth. Now the expectation, the social expectation here, I think we all agree that the demand for air travel is not going away. People would like to air travel, to see families, to see, to do business, so flying is not going away. And if we look at the figures, my colleagues in the network manager are saying that the demand in maybe the next 10 to 15 years is going to be at 45,000 flights per day. So it's a 30% increase compared to today. So the question really is, do we want aviation to grow or not? This is a societal question. Do we want aviation to fly or not? Do we want to cap the traffic growth, or do we need to let it grow again? And if we want to do that, then we have to invest in what you said in your conference, to invest in human, to invest in technology, to invest in procedures so that we move forward. Otherwise, all these beautiful machines, Sebastien, will simply be grounded on the floor. So maybe there is a small contribution to sustainability, but I tend to also to look at the destructive factor if we don't invest, because then we won't really get the maximum of those nice vehicles that are out there. So EUROCONTROL, you asked me, Maria, about EUROCONTROL, and we sit in a very interesting position in the value chain, because we are, on one hand, looking at the network through the network manager. We are also operating as operators in Maastricht upper area control. We are also coordinating the wider ATM modernization effort. So we look at this, at this trouble from different angles. So if I can take maybe a couple of examples from MUAC, so the Maastricht Control Center, one amazing thing that is already happening now is data communication. Imagine the air traffic controller, 80% of the workload of air traffic controller is to talk to you, pilot. So if we can shave some of that workload and put it into an automatic air-ground communication, and it's amazing, you can enter the ops room and it's silent. And that creates immediate capacity. Usually the average in Europe is about 45 flights per hour that you can manage. During last summer, they went, in some cases, up to 100. So it's like rocket science, and it's already happening today with existing technology. So using the existing technologies to a maximum extent, using automation, and I completely agree with the strategy, the automation roadmap. I think the intention is not to invent robots, but really to augment the human, to give the human as much capabilities as possible so that we respond to this societal push for having a safe and efficient air travel. From a network perspective, we invested also in a new platform, INM. It's really a top-notch, let's say, investment in cloud-based technologies, and the reason is not to go to this, new, stylish, modern platforms for the sake of technology, because we see that one of the issues in ATM is also the pace of change. So we may decide something to do today. You will see it happening perhaps in 10, 15 years if you're lucky. And we have to break that because, as I said before, the system is really stretched now and we have to invest. So what the cloud-based infrastructure will give us, hopefully, is more rapid implementation of new upgrades. And we do this also together with our partners because it's a collaboration with the ANSPs, a collaboration with all the actors that are in the pipe to move there. And if you, from a modernization perspective, let's say from a high-level view, what we see as a priority in terms of responding to those needs is to work on the trajectory. Because trajectory is going to be big. And here we mention CO2, we don't even mention the non-CO2 aspect. And some scientists argue that it has a massive effect on global warming. But trajectory is going to be key. Exchanging this trajectory between the actors is going to be key, and the move to trajectory-based operations. It is really surprising today that we are at the airport, we see the plane arriving on time, we are 30 minutes from boarding, and the airplane was not even taking off from the other place. And you can check that using flight radar, and the airport is not telling you that. So we live in a world of digitalization. We need to exchange information so that at least when you know that your flight is late, you can relax, you can, I don't know, go shopping, do your emails. So exchanging information, and in particular between professionals, exchanging trajectory information is key to achieve those goals.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Marouan. I had two questions, but you answered my second one straight away in terms of, ATM transformation and, what can we do to make this airspace a little bit less congested? And as well, you're working on the ATM master plan, and we will be working with you to try to see how we can support the implementation of it in a safe way. So thank you very much, very interesting. And of course, it's a big challenge. In Europe, we have a very, very congested airspace. And I wouldn't say I like it, but your question about, shall we cap it? Do we stop flying? And who is going to be the first one that will say, okay, I don't fly? I'm not sure. But something to think about, maybe something that we have to think about in the future. We shall see. Thank you very much. So I'm going to go back to Sebastien in a question that, how do you see technologies evolving to meet societal expectations for greener air travel? And how soon we can expect to see a real impact of these technologies? So when are we going to see all these new aircrafts with different power plants flying?
It's indeed a recurrent question, in fact. How can we accelerate the path of introduction of new technologies onto the market? What we have difficulties to figure out, especially in with public, is that there are regular improvements onto the aircraft. Look at the strategy of Airbus, incremental approach. They have introduced regularly innovations. There were the sharklets, then there were, in fact, afterwards, the re-engineering of the engines, in order, in fact, to offer to the market regular improvements. The engine makers have done the same. And all of these have been covered in the period of 20 years. In 20 years, we have already achieved a significant level of reduction. Now, what pays off is to make sure that airlines can operate that aircraft. And so here, this is one of the answers. How to make sure that we can replace the existing fleet with new fleets. But your question is more to know, in fact, what can we offer in terms of radical brand new technologies and when. So if you can display the chart, which was just highlighted some minutes before, what you can see on that chart is our strategic research innovation agenda. Maybe I don't know if someone can display it. Our strategic research innovation agenda is what defines the content and the ambition for clean aviation. Which is about, in fact, of reducing minus 30% of greenhouse gases emissions through introduction of new technologies, to introduce that aircraft onto the market no later than 2035. Why no later than 2035? Because when looking, in fact, at the carbon neutral objective by 2050, we need to accelerate the replacement of the fleet with new aircraft. And this is what I've just said before. We need, first of all, to start now with replacement of fleet with new aircraft, and tomorrow, from 2035 onwards, to accelerate that replacement in order to rapidly transition. This is one aspect. And our objective in the strategic research innovation agenda is to cover 55% of the emission share of the aviation sector through two segments. One is the ultra-efficient regional domain, so the regional market, and the second is the short and medium range domain. Why that two elements? Because they are the one where, in fact, we need to invest in terms of volume of capacity, and we also need to introduce technologies that can afterwards have some spillover effects. And in our strategic research innovation agenda, we have defined 4 aircraft concepts, which are more or less the guiding north for activities, especially from now on till the end of this decade, to develop the portfolio of technologies that will serve the ambition of that aircraft concept. And so this is something that we have introduced recently in an approach, not to go bottom-up, harvesting technologies and to see how they can really make match. But this was the first phase of clean aviation. The second phase is really to come from top-down. What is the vision for the market? What is the vision of the different OEMs? And what do we need to achieve in terms of technology maturation? So this is really a significant change in terms of approach. And what you can see here, for example, on the ultra-efficient regional aircraft, our objective is to achieve a minimum 30% of CO2 improvements, all through the introduction of hybridization. This is one item. We'd like at least to have an hybridization ratio of no less than 20%. That can offer, in fact, alternative source in terms of to kerosene and to SAF, and as such, in fact, to reduce the CO2 emissions. But it comes as a challenge because hybridization means electricity, means up to 1 megawatt power, installed power onto the aircraft, means new standards. And so to do so, we need, in fact, to really get access to data. And the ambition is to really further mature this down in order to perform flight test demonstration in 2029. So it will come as a reality. And flight test demonstration is something which is quite costly but important. First of all, to put all the system into motion, to identify what are the main difficulties we may face for future exploitation, to convince as well within different companies about the potential to invest and to accelerate the launch of new products, and also, in fact, to work with the regulator in order to get access to data and to prepare the ground for deployment. But 20% is not enough. That's why we'll work on hybrid, on high aspect ratioing to complement this. The second aspect is hydrogen. Hydrogen, there are a lot of work. Is it something credible, viable? We will fly one day with hydrogen. And it's true that it comes as a challenge from many perspectives. safety, technology, supply, deployment, airport capacity, infrastructure. So there are issues everywhere. It's not a good reason to say that it will not come, so we need to start and we need to push. So ASEA, Alliance for Zero Emission Aviation, is really focusing on that, how to trigger the necessary level of investment to accelerate the deployment and to get access to investment, especially on airport side and in terms as well of production of sustainable energy. Because all of this will only be achieved if we are capable to get access to renewable energy, in fact, to develop that new fuel. Hydrogen, so the challenges are multiple. Technology-wise, we are working on two streams, fuel cell and hydrogen combustion engines. You mentioned non-CO2 effects. With fuel cell, in fact, we won't have any more controls because we will not emit exhaust from the engine, which is water. We'll have byproducts, which is water, so we'll have to manage. But from that perspective, this will be more or less a full green technology solution, so which is a true zero solutions. Our objective is to accelerate the path in the development. We already in one stage have demonstrated 1.2 megawatts of integrated powertrain tested on ground. We need not to work, in fact, on that technology. We need to work on the cooling system. So we need to work as well on integration of different parts. So there are still some work to do. And our ambition is to perform flight tests in 2028. I'm quite long, so I will stop here, but just to give you the flavor about what we are doing, we're trying to put all things aligned with a market vision, a deployment by a certain date, to be in capacity, in fact, to achieve the right maturity level by the end of this decade. And in terms of flight tests, if you have to take something away, is that we plan to perform flight test activities on all the concepts by more or less the end of this decade, and also to work on the industrial capacity to support the launch of the new product. But it's true that it will not be enough. We'll still need, in fact, additional investment, especially to bridge the gap between maturity level and introduction of new product onto the market. So we hope that from 2035, some of that type of concept will become a reality. And some of our OEMs who are on board of clean aviation are the one really aligning their strategy with this ambition and with this vision.
Thank you very much, Sebastien. It's very exciting and fascinating, all these new technologies, but as you say, quite challenging as well, because it's not just the technology in the aircraft, it's as well the infrastructure that goes around it. So the infrastructure on the ground, the supply, as you said as well, the fact we compete with others, the affordability, how much it's going to cost. Yeah. So yeah, it's a complex environment, but I mean, we are in good hands. So we'll keep working with you in trying to find the right solutions. So we're going to move on to the last questions because I really would like to hear from you and allow the panelists to answer any questions. One quick one, maybe on safety, Joachim. Societal expectations drive innovations. Basically, as the European regulator, you have a difficult job here to keep up with the pace of innovation and ensure that European regulations are enablers and not blockers. How do you manage to do that? And what are the challenges?
Well, how do we manage to do that? Well, basically by relying on EASA. Yeah? I mean, EASA is our technical arm. They are our eyes and ears. So obviously the agency was created in order to provide the necessary technical expertise in order to then inform us in the Commission as to what innovations are coming, how they should be supported, and what regulatory framework we need in order to enable these technologies. And then we have a strategy of trying to be as supportive as possible of innovation and to try to create these regulatory frameworks relatively early. And I think I could talk here about drones and eVTOLs, where, as you may know, we already started in 2016 in order to work on these new forms. And now we have what I consider to be world-leading regulatory framework in place, which covers everything from the small vehicles to the big vehicles, as well as their airspace integration through the U-space. I mean, obviously, we also work on new forms of propulsion, where we support and work very closely with the Clean Aviation Joint Undertaking, and where we have insisted a lot on the role that EASA has been giving in the governing board in order to ensure that this link between the technologies which are being developed and the necessary regular support is being created. So we do not want to try to pick winners, but we want to be as supportive as possible for different forms of innovation. And let me give you one last example, which shows that we're also dealing with smaller stuff in this respect. I mean, you may have heard of a company called Polvi, which is trying to build a flying car, which technically is a large gyrocopter. And for this, rules also do not exist, and therefore in the last meeting of our EASA committee, where we do discuss and adopt rules with member states, we have now created new rules on flight crew licensing and ops, even for that form of mobility, which probably will be very limited in scope, but nevertheless, I mean, it is a European innovation, and we try to support this by enabling this regulatory framework as soon as possible.
Thank you very much, Joachim. So it is true that the policy drive from the Commission is allowing Europe to be at the forefront of many areas, as you mentioned, but as well things like AI. So thank you for your trust in us, and no pressure, colleagues, to deliver on this. But yeah, we'll do what we can. Thank you. So we're going to do a last question on the global landscape. So zooming out again, because again, we can be quite good here in Europe, but if we don't do all these things at a global level, then we will not be able to basically sort out this big puzzle or chessboard moves that Marouan was referring to. So the question will be for Anna. So ICAO is our global civil aviation forum to set global minimum safety standards. As member of the rotation group, Portugal plays an important role in the Council of ICAO. How do you see ICAO's abilities and efforts to keep up with innovation? Global solutions normally are better in some cases than having regional or other national solutions, but can ICAO really deliver? And if yes, what are the areas where ICAO's role is really important? Difficult questions, so not expecting you to give the perfect answer, but yeah, what are your views on this?
Well, thank you, Maria. As you rightly put it, it is a really difficult question, but I will try to give you and to share with you all my thoughts on this. The 40th session of the ICAO Assembly adopted a resolution on innovation in aviation. So I think that we can all agree that and recognize that innovations carry a significant impact on efficiency, on promoting safety, security, facilitation, environmental sustainability, so improving aviation. And as you rightly put it, ICAO plays a really key role on global civil aviation, not only by setting minimum standards, but by laying the path towards innovation in aviation and the future of aviation. So ICAO really plays a central role on assisting member states with policies, with guidance, other provisions, and doing so under the principle of no country left behind. And this is a very important topic on this. Under the principle of no country left behind, and doing so in a timely manner. That's another key issue and another challenge, because we're talking about innovation. So the speed of innovation and the timely manner in which you promote the global framework, these are challenges that you need to balance and that you need to meet. So to answer your question directly, yes, ICAO is vital in maintaining that global standardized approach. So why? Because while you are preventing silos of innovations, if you have silos of innovation, if you do not have a coordinated, harmonized, and standardized approach, you will get inefficiencies because you have a silos of innovation, and then the industry will not absorb the innovation at the same pace. So it will mean that you have a slow absorption of innovation from the industry, and you have different paces of innovations globally. So if we talk about aviation as being a global sector, that means that if you want to push innovation, if you want to push aviation forward, that means that you have to go probably at the same pace, and you have to have the ability to set industry the conditions to absorb, to implement, and to deliver. So as Joachim was saying, EASA has a really comprehensive package and regulatory framework and approach. So the challenge is to get that package, or to get ICAO and EASA and other regions to really develop and to really balance and to have a coordinated approach. You asked me in your question, what ways to move forward. And I think that cybersecurity, advanced air mobility, sustainability are ways to and topics to be addressed in this policy of innovation. And ICAO is doing so. The Council is working on a policy of innovation in aviation. But the challenge, I think, is to get a process-driven consensus in ICAO to balance it with the speed of innovation. So it's really a challenging task for ICAO, but I'm confident that ICAO can deliver. And if you think about the Advanced Air Mobility Symposium, the innovation fairs, it means that ICAO is putting the theme and the topics and engaging with stakeholders in order to get this communication and this exchange of views. So I'm confident that ICAO will deliver. But yes, these are challenging times, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Yeah, I agree, challenging. But I mean, good things that are happening as well at kind of international and global level. I think more than ever, big regulators are working together. Yeah. We're working very closely with the FAA, with Canada, with Brazil. So that is very good because no single regulator has the answer to all the questions. And as you say, if we don't coordinate, then there's no interoperability of new solutions, and then it's just worthless. So
it's inefficient.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully we'll get there. Thank you. I don't know, you want to complement Joachim on that one, on the global...
Well, I think with ICAO, how should I put it? The question is not whether they will get there, but rather when. Yeah. Yeah? I mean, and I think in advanced air mobility is a very good example because there I do not think we can accept that they work with this approach where in 10 years they will have a panel which will come out with standards and recommended practices. So I think there you see also that they recognize this, no? Because the work they do now with the Advanced Air Mobility Symposium that Anna was referring to, the fact that there is the Advanced Air Mobility Study Group, which brings together sort of leading nations in the sphere, is a very good example of a possible way forward. And we would really expect that then they also use this group in order to identify really world-leading regulatory solutions, and hopefully that includes the European ones, in order to create a framework which others then can adapt to, rather than spending their time and discussing at great lengths on how we create a system from the bottom up. So it's really a call on ICAO to be pragmatic in these areas and work with things which have already been tested in certain parts of the world and which could provide a way forward in order to ensure that global interoperability.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to go into the questions now. So it's your time to ask the panelists anything that is in your mind. Oh, we have already lots of questions. Oh, here. Anonymous. Oh, somebody doesn't want to know. The social media is monopolizing all the communication today. How do we ensure the right messages gets to the targeted audience? This is a very good question. I don't know why you want to be anonymous, because I think we are all thinking that this is pretty important. So any views on the panelists? Anybody would like to?
Yeah, I can throw some ideas in order to start a conversation. It's a very interesting question. As I was mentioning in my first intervention, regulators really need to understand that the approach is to have social media, understanding what social media is saying, and getting right to these topics and addressing them in the same manner. So you should have also social media. You should also have your communication strategy using the same means and using the same tools in order to get to the audience. Otherwise, your message won't come through. Mm-hmm. So you should have the same means of communication and putting the right message from the regulators, from the industry, in a clear, objective way. So you need to change, as I was saying in the beginning, you need to change your communication strategy in order to address how communication is being doing today.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I mean, we're starting to do more as you say, use different channels, but as well different way of communicating with bloggers and this guy that goes to the airport and makes the ground handling look really cool. Look, this is my daily job. So we're starting to do those things, but we have to do as well on the sustainability bit and addressing all the audiences. Because every audience have a different way to be addressed, all people, young people, aviation professionals, non-aviation professionals. So we'll do that. The second question is, aren't you afraid that technological development is too slow to keep up with societal expectations? Are we afraid?
It's being too slow. It's always too slow in all domains. So now the question is, just figure out something. When you go onto an aircraft, you never wonder whether you are gonna arrive to final destination. But look around all the infrastructure, look around all the operations, look all the complexity of all of this. So transforming such a big system takes time, unfortunately. It cannot be made in one day. And secondly, we need to adapt as well at the path of evolution of the various technologies, but to bring technologies that can really make a big change. And again, I insist, if we want to be quite quick in deploying solutions, we need to invest in replacing existing aircraft. And this is probably an economical balance between affordability for the airlines versus, in fact, a sustainable ambition. And so because we already have some solutions that can make a big change, and then we are preparing the next stage.
Maybe to complement Maria here, I think we have also to be fair that we have a very conservative mindset in aviation, and it's I always use this mantra: never touch a running system. So basically, as long as it works, in the past we were in the forefront of innovation. We were attracting a lot of young talents coming into aviation as the pioneers, and then we are stuck with like a Second World War type technology. And yesterday we talked about the GNSS interference, and guess what? The solution is to revert back to, again, all technologies as backup. So I think there is a fundamental discussion to be had about how can we, at the same time, be safe, secure, efficient, but still be future-proof and continue to evolve. And to be fair, the comment is very relevant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very good point, Marouan. It is true, we are pretty conservative in our sector, probably because the safety aspect is always our key and core mandate. So anything we do, it has to be safe. If there is an aircraft accident, it's everywhere. You don't hear that much if there is, a rail, straight away it goes down very quickly. So we are on the eye of the storm, let's say, in terms of safety and how we do things. But maybe being a little bit more expansive, and now that we have new people coming into the system that are not aviation professionals, will help us change a little bit that, being a little bit braver.
If you look at the EUROCOPTER demonstration, I mean, I'm very transparent here. Demonstration in Paris, it's not a question of technology. They had the vehicle, they had everything there, they had the vertiport, but it did not fly because of social acceptance.
Yes. Yeah,
so it was not the pace of technology in this case. It's about how we get the public to accept the fact that these things are happening.
Yeah, that's a good example. The next question is quite related. When it will be, why drones are not here yet? What is blocking the development of UAM? Natalie?
I think UAM includes a lot of different types of vehicles and operations. And for what concerns, for instance, the drones operations, delivery, or we see some operations already taking place, notably in the medical domain or for search and rescue. So this is starting. Now the other part of urban air mobility, the transport of passengers through eVTOLs, it's indeed not started yet because there are no vehicles certified, if I'm correct, for the time being. Mm-hmm. So we are waiting for the certification of the eVTOLs.
Yeah, industry has please.
If I may, I think that's partly true, but I think it's also a question of there being a lack of realistic use cases, which then allow the funding of the industry. Mm-hmm. I mean, there is now, with the cheap money being gone, it's simply more difficult to finance innovations for which you don't have a very good story to tell. And in my perception, many of these of the stories that you hear about UAM do have questionable economics behind. And I think that also links to the question of when is it realistic for flying taxis to transport passengers commercially over European cities. I mean, obviously there's a regulatory dimension. You need the vehicles, but on the other hand, you also need a market for that. And for instance, when it comes to transporting people from the airport to the city center, I mean, in places where you have a very good running metro system, you wonder if anyone is willing to pay 150 euros in order to be transported. If you can step into a high-speed train or a metro and have the same thing done for 5 euros. So I think here we cannot only rely on regulation or blame the lack of regulation, but to the contrary, I think we need to call on industry to come forward with realistic plans which actually meet a demand of society, and then they will also find the money from public and private sources, in particular private sources, in order to get all this funded.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So we have time for just one more question and then wrap up. I don't know if anybody wants to pick any from there.
I like
yes?
the last one, in fact, the question of cost. Do we have also alternatives that are transitioning to carbon neutral aviation? I think this is the question which is behind, because what is true is that becoming carbon neutral will be more expensive, at least at start. Mm-hmm. And so the question is more how to accommodate that path. So to people who are saying that since it will be more costly, there will be a decrease in traffic demand, there might be impact in traffic demand. This is for sure. But the question is more how to absorb that shock and to make sure that we are capable to keep growing. Because otherwise, what will happen if we are not capable to really transition to carbon neutrality, we'll have a big issue. Aviation will come, in fact, as one big wrecked flight. And in fact, everyone will go and complain. And this will be, in fact, a big issue for the whole community because, in fact, we will all suffer from this situation. So I think it's not an option, it's mandatory. The question is how to make sure it will happen in a very smooth transition manner, which will protect, in fact, the competitiveness of the sector.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Right, so we are in minus 45 seconds, which is quite, you don't see this, but it's like a time bomb. So we have exploded now, but try to wrap up in 1 minute. And basically, the summary of this panel, I like to do some drawings here. Society, they are the final users of our services. So that's a fact. If we don't bring them together with us in this journey, then a transport future is a little bit, more flaky than what we think. So we need to communicate, we need to inform them, we need to make them understand the role of aviation and all the benefits that it has, plus our commitment to decarbonize. Then we have to do it safely, we have to do it comfortably, and we have to do it sustainably. And for that, technology is a big enabler. But we need to, of course, understand what technology, how do we implement it, and how we implement it safely. It's a global solution, and we need to all cooperate together, and that's why we are here today. So thank you very much, panelists. Thank you for your contributions, and thank you, everybody, for the questions. Thanks.